All right, good evening, everybody. I hope you can see me. I got alerts going all over the place telling me that I'm live and all that good stuff. So I see we already have some folks in the chat room. I'm glad that everybody is with us tonight. I just ran up here after grabbing dinner real fast, so I need to just give a couple things. Good evening, Donna. Good evening, Claire. Good evening, Bill. Bill, I see that you've got a couple of questions that are up there, so I will get to that. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm going to use the microphone on the computer tonight and not use my other mic as long as you all can hear me. I'm going off camera for a minute, and then we will be ready to rock and roll here. Good evening, Kathy. Hope everybody is doing well this evening and glad that you're with us. Some people have asked me, why do we not go live? Okay, now you have my full attention. Some people ask me, why have we not gone live on here? One more thing. Give me 1 second because it looks like the computer is not charged up either. So let's make sure that doesn't go out on us. Okay. Now I think you got me. People have asked me, why do you not go live on here on Wednesday nights some? And part of it is because of this right here. One of our biggest issues that we are dealing with is that when it comes to the live broadcast, I can't use a phone and I can't use an iPad because YouTube is not allowing me to stream through those things. So we've been having to do a premiere, and I decided I would be at the computer tonight and thought it would be a good thing for us to be able to hi, Nancy. Hey, Ray, Claire, Robin, Kathy. I think I got to you all already. And so there's so that's the reason why we haven't been doing a lot of that. Also, if you didn't get the Zoom link, you're going to have to. You can't click on it from here, but you can put it. Let me give you that again, just so you have that. If anybody wants to join us on Zoom afterwards, let me just get that link real quick, and it will. You can join us from at a little after 8 o'clock, and maybe before that. If we are able to get, if you're able to get on there with us, I want to just get the invitation for you in case you did not get that. We did have that on the, in our email that went out to all of you, but let me get you that real quick. And it will, wow. Wouldn't you know that? Okay. Give me 1 second here, because there is, when I look at my meetings, here it is. Wow, sorry about that, folks. I'm going to copy this and give you the Zoom meeting. I don't think you'll need, it should be one click. I don't think that you're going to need anything else. I'm sorry that I'm doing this on the fly for you. I believe that if you just copy the link, you won't need the meeting ID and the passcode that I just put in there. So just grab the link, cut it and paste it, and put it in. Okay. How do you like that? 4 minutes into this, now I'm ready. And this is why we don't always do live on Wednesday night. Okay, so let me scroll back. If you have any questions that you like answered tonight, or there's something you want to throw out for discussion, please do so. I have to scroll back a little bit. Bill says, our future is turning away from the church. Could this be what is mentioned in Thessalonians? Let no one deceive you by any means, for the day will come unless the falling away comes first. Okay, good question, Bill. I think that it all depends on what one's perspective is of when the falling away actually will occur, and that's going to determine how one interprets Thessalonians. Was the falling away something that happened 70 AD, or was it something that's going to happen later on? Paul had sort of a double double prophecy in which he was talking about something that would happen way later on, and that we're in that place now. Now, there is, certainly people that have fallen away from the faith, but then that's assuming that we are in a space where we have actually, are. I'm trying to figure out a nice way to say this. All right, let me back up. I'm editing as I go. I want to be careful. I want to be very careful. Let me back up. So we are in a place right now where the foundation of our country is being questioned. The question becomes: were we really a Christian nation? We were a nation that was founded on the Judeo-Christian ethic. There's no doubt about it. But we keep getting farther away from that. And as I read the scriptures, things are going to get worse. They're not going to get better. So I think that when people talk about they've fallen away from God, I think that it's that they've fallen away from maybe going to church. Church has not become an important thing anymore. Church, unfortunately, for so long was something that we went to and not something that we were. And that's a bad deal, because we created a situation where we let the young people know that if they went to church, they were okay. But meanwhile, when it came to actually living out being who the church was in their places of work, in their neighborhoods, and other things, we weren't calling on them to do that. So now we're in a situation where the church has not been able to meet in person, and so those lack of gatherings have now created this sort of weird place that we're in. And I for one believe that yes, there's always a certain falling away. I can trace the nation and what we were founded on and what we've gotten away from. Is there a falling away from God? I think there has been. I think man has been separated from God since the beginning of time. That's what happened in the Garden of Eden. So I'm not surprised by any of it. I'm not surprised by people's disconnection from faith in God, because it's just not something that is really talked about anymore. And honestly, I think, and this is a hard thing to say, but we were talking to some folks this week, and I said, we raised this generation. Especially the participation trophy generation. We raised them, and that doesn't mean that all of us raised our children to accept the participation trophy. But we are in a situation now where people feel like if they throw a temper tantrum, they'll get their way. One of the things I said the other day is when my daughter used to throw a temper tantrum, we would when she was a little kid, we would just walk away from her, like leave her in the store. And now we made sure she was safe, but because if we gave her that attention, then she realized if I scream louder again, I'm going to be able to get what I want even more. So I think that because there's not been that faith in God, and let me just take it a step further. The Ten Commandments, again, were about a society. They were to govern a nation. And even today, our nation is founded on those 10. Good evening, Cher. Our nation is founded on those 10 principles. And even if you take the ones about God out, which is of course not the thing to do, but you still have don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't murder, don't envy, don't lie. Those are some biggies. Those are some big virtues that we need to be following, but we don't teach that anymore. And I think with the onslaught of so many other things that are happening, we have found ourselves in a situation where we are today that is godless, and it's more godless than it's ever been. And I think that also begs a question: is what do we as the church do to approach those folks? How do we handle them? Do we what are our big things that we are not going to compromise then what do we do to reach these folks? And I think that so many have made these things right here the enemy. We have said social media is the enemy. All of these things are the enemy. It's the enemy if you let it be. I have on this phone here. I have a Bible verse that says, I don't know whether you can read that, but it says, "I have a purpose." When I open this up, many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. So it's all a matter of the tools that we use. And so we have to ask, how do we reach this next generation? Where are they hanging around? Who are they? And I think it's always an interesting question. And I think that the pandemic has also caused others to be closer to God with their faith. My sister and kids have twice a week Bible hour. We will share our daily devotionals in a family chat. That's fantastic. And I bet you're doing that family chat. How are you doing that, Daryl? Are you doing that on the phone? Or are you doing it, you have like a group text? I'm curious about that. Because see, that's the other thing. Like, I don't like text messaging on some of it, but I've got a group text with my wife and my children. Yes, group text via iPad and phones. And see, that's a great thing. Like we can do. I do group FaceTimes, and that's a great way to share those things. And I think you're right. I think as we talked about in the beginning with the pandemic, Daryl, and I kept talking about here, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, we can't go to church." No, but what you have to remember is that you are the church, right where you are. And so we're going to use technology to try to continue to be the church. Now, we've had a few hiccups, but we haven't been offline at all. We've had a service, we've had a message, we've had something that has gone on every particular Sunday. Thanks to everybody that's such a part of that, our tech team and everything. It's been great, and I so much appreciate it. But it's also told me where we're missing some things as the pastor of the church, that there are some areas that we need to focus on, and some things that we need to do, which is why we're going to do a Zoom call immediately following this, because I think that we have, when the pandemic happened, I think that people started to look at it either as an obstacle, as we talked about at the beginning, or an opportunity. I look at it as an opportunity. That doesn't got a positive thinking baloney thing that it's, this is some kind of an opportunity. It is an opportunity. It was an opportunity for us to change, to grow. And the thing is that, as I said, and I've said this a couple of times, a few weeks ago when we had the person that tested positive, which, by the way, I don't even know whether they're watching, and I got a great call from them today. They had to take 2 more tests. They're now negative. Only thing they lost was their sense of taste. Had a little bit of, stomach issues. That was it. And now they're going to get their elective surgery, and so we thank God for that. That's a good thing. But I think that the pandemic, there were people that were focused on the dumbest things in churches, like furniture, focused on what kind of music you have and all those kinds of things. Suddenly you can't meet, and it's like, well, now wait a minute, what's really important here? What are the important things that the church is supposed to be doing? And so I think that, for me, I've looked at this as an opportunity to change. And what I was going to say about that was, if 6 months ago, and I said this the other day, 6 months ago, if I had sent out a message to everybody and said, "Okay, folks, we're not going to have any in-person services this Sunday," everybody would have went, "Has he lost his mind? You mean you're not having any in-person services? You're just going to play a video? Really? Like nobody's going to meet? Like the building's going to be shut down? Really? How do you do that?" Well, what we learned is how you do it, because we had to do it. And so what it taught us, if it taught us anything, is that the church is not the building. The church is you, and the church is me. The church is us. And the great thing is that we can have people reaching from all over the United States. I got an interesting call Email. Let me try again. Email this week. From the Florida Initiative for Suicide Prevention. Many of you know that I have been a speaker every year at their annual Survivors Conference, and they bring in all people who have lost a loved one to suicide. And so I am one of the speakers at this all-day event. Well, last year, many of you know I was in Tennessee in November and had a blood pressure episode, which is the thing that precipitated all the weight loss and the trying to get in shape and all that kind of stuff. And having been in the hospital with the blood pressure, I was due to come home and speak that weekend at the Survivors Conference, and I had to cancel, which I haven't had to do in, I've never had to do it. So I got an interesting email from Jackie Rosen, as the executive director, and she said, well, Bob, it's that time of year again. She said, we'd like for you to speak. And she said, I've been watching her, health journey and all that kind of stuff. And she said, of course, we're going to be doing this virtually. And I paused and I thought, that's good. Because I've had people that have said to me, they've got a friend that lives somewhere who attempted suicide, or they've got somebody who lives somewhere else, and they're saying, what can they do there? Guess what? They can do it here. They can participate in our online thing from all over the United States. And I'm even playing around now with the idea of trying to figure out how to put my grief seminar that I did on, and to do it right here online through Zoom. And I think we can pull it off. And I think it's something that's going to be a necessity, because it's all about emotional health. And if you haven't figured it out yet, people are not emotionally healthy. They're more spring-loaded than ever before. Today I was in a restaurant, one of the ones that I frequent in my town. And the server, who we know, she was talking about, they'd had some event where some situation where somebody came in and they didn't like something that happened with the food. So of course, when you have a problem with your food and you have a problem with your service, and things go wrong with your service, obviously the place for you to go and to talk about it is, of course, Facebook. No, but that's what people do. And I don't know why they feel empowered, because all you do is you got people that pile on. The people began to just rail against this restaurant. Oh, yeah. And then somebody else, then they started calling somebody a Karen, which is the newest thing on the internet. It's a new internet video. Call somebody that you disagree with, that's got white privilege or white whatever, white fragility. All of these terminologies are just crazy. And they call them a Ken or a Karen. And so then they started calling this woman a Karen. And then it was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And so the servers told us this. And so my buddy and I went back to eating, and she's behind the counter, and some guy comes in with a mask on, and he says, your prices are wrong. And I hear it, and it's starting to escalate, and it's escalating and escalating, and he's getting more and more escalated with her, telling her he wants to speak to the owner. And I looked at my friend and I said, 2 more minutes, and A, I want you to call the police, and then B, I'm getting up. And he goes, well, just give it a second. And so I said, if I get up, call the police. Just how we're going to do it. And so finally, the server, so the counter said, look, she said, I'm giving you we just didn't get the menus reprinted. We're not trying to do anything underhanded. I'm giving you the price. You pointed this out. What else do you want me to do? I don't want you to lie anymore. The guy started, and then finally he turned around and he walked out shaking his head. And I thought to myself, did that really just happen? I mean, are we really there? I saw a mob of people that tried to keep a guy from going into a gas station today. And he kept going, and he eased through the crowd. Then they started calling him all kinds of names. And I thought, we are in this emotionally unstable place where everybody thinks they have experienced trauma. And some people have experienced trauma. But let me tell you what trauma is. You don't have trauma because something happened to you in your history, unless it happened to you personally. If it's something happened to to a relative, obviously that you experienced that. But let me tell you what trauma is. Trauma is a parent losing their kid to suicide. Trauma is a parent losing a child. Trauma is a spouse losing another spouse. Trauma is a soldier seeing their friend blown up right next to them. Trauma is people going down in an airplane. Should I go on? I mean, that's depressing. That's trauma. And because your coffee's cold, or because somebody looked at you wrong, or because they said something that you deemed may not have been appropriate, that's not trauma. That's not real trauma. And so this is where people are not emotionally healthy. And look, we're all going to have, I say that, trust me, Kathy, I've had grumpy days too. And Daryl, you're right. It's going to get worse with all the mental issues that people are facing. And so it's just that there's just so much anger and rage that is out there right now, and it's tapping into the worst part of it. And all the politicians are doing on either side is they're just ginning it up. And I've literally gotten to the point now where I don't want to contribute to the anger, so I'm really not watching the news in the morning. I think I shared this with you all. I listen to a quick radio broadcast or a quick broadcast of the headlines, but I'm not even going on social media in the morning. In fact, I'm not looking at my texts in the morning. I don't want to know anything that happened. If the world blew up overnight, I'm probably going to look out my window and realize it happened. Seeing the news in real time is not helpful, and seeing them grabbing the headlines depending on who's mad at whom and what group is upset. We have all of this nonsense going on. Yeah, they do use the word trauma loosely. That's funny. Cher, I'm going to actually use that. It's drama, not trauma. And Bill said the same thing. I wish I would have thought of that. Yeah, it's drama. We need real trauma, not drama. And if you've been through real trauma, you know. And listen, I've dealt with people that have been through real trauma. I've dealt with the people who, the kid whose family went down in the airplane. I've dealt with that. There's a lot of it, and I'm not minimizing people's feelings. Don't get me wrong, but really, your coffee being cold, or you getting charged wrong, and assuming that they're out to get you, that you're so paranoid you can't go to a football game because you think they're talking about you in the huddle. That's bad. When you automatically assume that the person was doing something to you, there are some issues that has to be dealt with. It's kind of like I've said before, that you can be victimized without becoming a victim. I may not choose whether I'm going to be victimized. Somebody could victimize me in any way, shape, or form, but I have to choose whether I've decided to be a victim from there on out. If I've decided to play the role of the victim, or I've just been victimized. And it's a small nuance, but an important nuance, because what it does is it puts the responsibility back on me. I was thinking about that earlier today, that when something tragic happens, maybe somebody's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they become victimized. What happens? Well, first of all, they don't go over why they were victimized or what the history of the victimization was. The fact is they were victimized. The counselor helps them to figure out how they can move forward as a result of being victimized, so that they don't become a victim. And they can take power back and be in control of themselves. And a lot of times it has to do with forgiving the perpetrator, but without condoning what they did. If it was something was done to you, it's about setting some goals and setting about to change things. And so you can stay stuck in the pain. I've used Candy Lightner 1,000 times. Candy Lightner's daughter was killed by a drunk driver. That's like somebody gets behind the wheel and your daughter is dead because this person was driving drunk. Most irresponsible thing around. And you can get ticked about it. And you could say, oh, she's a victim, and she could have stayed locked up in her room and just stayed in this sort of loop of pain, stay in this loop of trauma. But after she got through the initial grief, she said, you know what? I know what needs to happen. I'm going to change the rules. I'm going to change the laws. And that's why, and out of that, rather, she formed Mothers Against Drunk Driving. If you haven't figured out what Matt has done a lot to change the drunk driving laws in the United States of America. And I can name person after person after person. Kid who was killed, Andrew Coffey, who was killed at FSU a couple years ago. Andrew was they were trying to bring him into a frat, and what wound up happening was they did a hazing, and the hazing, of course, involved them pouring alcohol in him. Well, he got alcohol poisoning and he died. I did Andrew's funeral. It's tragic. 500 people filled the Pompano Beach High School auditorium for Andrew's funeral, memorial service. I felt for his parents and his sister. It was awful what they went through. I think I shared this with a lot of you. I think I shared it in a message. About a year later, I got a text from his mother, Sandy. She had decided to start advocating, and there's an Andrew's Law now, I think, which has something to do with hazing, and they can shut down fraternities and sororities if hazing is going on. And so what they did is they took the trauma, and out of the trauma found a purpose. Now, you can't find purpose in your pain, but you can find purpose out of the pain. And that's really where it comes full circle. When you come back out, when you're not just yelling and screaming about it and crying and getting stuck in the loop of pain, but literally changing laws for the better. You're not just yelling and screaming about it, you're changing it. Nobody's ever changed anything with yelling and screaming and all of that, unless it was a legitimate war. But we're not there right now, folks. And so we literally have to make sure that we are being the right people. I know we've been all over the board tonight, and if you'd like, we can continue this discussion in just a few moments. I will meet you all over on Zoom if you'd like to join us. There may be people in the waiting room. If you scroll up, once again, hold on a second. We'll put this down here again. May actually be able to click on it out of here, but let's see if you can do that. I don't know whether you can or whether you can't. So let's try this. Looks like it's going to let you do it. So I appreciate you all joining us tonight so much. And I will see you over on Zoom, and we can chit-chat a little bit more there. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon. Bye.